So when I first started working from home full time, I got very, very sedentary. I went from working a job that had me on my feet for hours every day, teaching, to sitting at my computer for like 12, 14 hours a day. And I got very unhealthy and overweight quite quickly. I'm one of those people who can just like look at food and it goes on me somewhere. Thanks, genes. So over the years, I've worked at, improving my health, figuring out how to be healthy while working from home, which can be a challenge because when you do work from home, you don't need to go anywhere, generally speaking, especially me. I don't have kids that force me to like go take them to school or anything like that. I do have a hobby or two that get me out of the house, but that's stuff that I've developed deliberately in order to live a healthier lifestyle. And in the last few years, especially the last year particularly, I've really focused on my health because I am the big 4-0 this year. And I had the realization that if I don't get it sorted now, it's just going to get harder and harder, especially as I get older and head into perimenopause and menopause, where your hormones start going wacky and things start happening that aren't fun. So I really wanted to focus on my health, and I have worked really hard on that, and I'm going to talk about that in detail in another video. But today I just wanted to do a quick video about 5 things that I have changed in my life, 5 healthy habits that have changed my life for the better. These are all things that have been hugely important to me in getting fit and healthy and staying that way and making it easier to do that as well. And when I talk about health, I'm not just talking about physical health, I'm talking about mental health as well. I have some history with bouts of anxiety, which I might talk about in another video, but we'll skip over that for now and just focus on the fact that when I talk about health, I'm talking holistically. I think it's kind of stupid that we have this idea that there's mental health and physical health as if they're separate things. They are so completely and utterly intertwined. It's one body, it's one system. You can't have physical health without mental health and mental health without physical health, really, as far as I'm concerned. So health means both of those things. And these are 5 things that have helped me improve my mental and physical health and well-being. Number 1 is eating more protein. Focusing on my protein intake has been the biggest change to my diet and the biggest positive change to my diet. And I kind of worked this out because I was focusing in my health, my exercise routines. I was focusing a lot on building muscle and learning about how important protein intake is for building muscle. But there's so much more to it. Not only do you need enough protein to build muscle, you also, sorry, cat noise. Teddy, what are you doing? What are you doing? I heard that. You're doing something naughty. So there are 2 other key things here that protein is really important for if you are trying to, especially if you're trying to get a bit more lean and loosen body fat. Protein actually makes you feel fuller for longer. So the more protein you have in your diet, the more satiated you feel and the less cravings you have to overeat food. And the third thing is protein is actually the macronutrient. We've got proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Protein is the macronutrient that takes the body the most energy to digest. So if you're eating more protein, it actually takes your body more energy to digest the protein, which helps to balance out your calorie intake and output as well. So protein is what I base all my meals and my diet around. Now I eat meat, so it's relatively easy for me. I eat meat. I use protein powders and bars, and that's what helps me get nice high protein in my diet. But you can easily do it as well these days with, pre-made foods for vegans and vegetarians and protein powders for you guys. So I highly recommend that as a really important step in improving your diet and your body composition as well. The second habit is almost daily exercise. And I put almost in here because we all need rest. Your body needs time to rest and recuperate. And I tend to kind of go on the side of doing too much. So I've had to learn how to balance this out and know that sometimes it's okay to just lie on the couch all day reading a book, and that's not a problem. It's when you do that every day that it starts to become a problem. So I exercise deliberately at least 5 to 6 days per week. On my day off, sometimes I will just be a complete slug and just do nothing, but I might go for a walk instead. So for me, that has been the huge huge thing that has helped my mental health the most. And there's this amazing book that changed my mindset about this. It's called Spark. I will link to it in the description below. It just revolutionized how I thought about exercise, because I was never motivated by being thin or anything like that when I was younger to exercise. It was more about the health benefits, and I was kind of a bit lazy about it. And when you're young, you just take your health for granted, right? You're like, I'm fine. I don't need to worry about this. I really wish I had worried about it really younger. But anyway, we're on track now. So this book revolutionized how I thought about exercise because of the impact it has on your mind and your alertness and your mental health. It is really, really, really powerful. So that is why I don't ever go more than one day without some form of exercise, unless I'm badly injured and can't, because I feel it in my mind and in my body if I skip more than one day of exercise. And by exercise, I do lots of things. I go for walks, I swim, I do strength training, I go for hikes. So there's a whole bunch of different exercises that I've discovered over the years work for me and allow me to do this balance between, working on my strength, working on my cardio health, and then working on my flexibility and mobility as well. So doing things like yoga, foam rolling, all that sort of stuff. So daily exercise has been a huge game changer for me. It just makes me feel so much better in my body and in my mind. And it is the kind of core habit that has helped me to improve and maintain my health over the last, probably decade really, but the last year specifically, I've really dialed it in. This is particularly important for those of us who do work at home. As I was saying, you don't have a lot of incidental exercise and movement in your day. I mean, I get out of bed at the other end of the house and then I'll come up here to my office and then I'll go back down. Sometimes I'll go downstairs to the jewellery studio to make some stuff. And occasionally I might walk to the gate to check the mail, but that's kind of it. So if I don't deliberately make myself go do some form of exercise, I'm really not getting much movement. And that's just not natural for the human being, the human body, to be so sedentary. So that has been a big thing that I've incorporated into my life that's made a huge difference. The third thing I have done personally to improve my health is giving up caffeine. Wait, don't go anywhere. Let me explain. I know most of you are probably coffee addicts, caffeine addicts. I was too. It's just so normal and accepted in Western society. And there's nothing wrong with caffeine. In fact, it can have some positive health benefits. But for some of us, it's a really bad idea. And it's a bad idea because it's a stimulant. And if you are someone who does have a tendency towards anxiety, caffeine can be a really bad idea because it can increase that anxiety. Helicopter. So I decided to give up caffeine when I was experiencing my last serious bout of anxiety. And I also had GERD, so gastrointestinal reflux disease or disorder, whatever they want to call it. And giving up caffeine was one of the things they recommend you give up for that problem as well. So I was like, well, there's two really good reasons here to give it up and see what happens. And I've been drinking tea since I was I don't even remember how young I was, and then started drinking coffee as an adult. So there had never really been a period in my life that I could remember that I did not daily consume caffeine. So I decided to give it up. I think it was maybe 2018 that I did this. And it was awful for about a day. I felt like a zombie. I had a massive headache, and then I was had no energy and could barely move. But when I came out of the other side, it was awesome. I don't have those dips in energy in the mid-afternoon that I used to have. My energy is very consistent throughout the day. It's definitely helped reduce any anxiety because I just don't have that stimulant in my system constantly like I did before. And it's been really, really awesome for me. So it's made a big difference, and I really have absolutely no desire to go back to drinking caffeine. Now, of course, I'll have the occasional decaf latte because I actually really like the taste of coffee, and I still eat chocolate, especially dark chocolate I really love, and that does have caffeine in it. So I'm really careful when I do eat it to only eat a small amount so that I don't get much caffeine in my system. And it was really interesting, actually, probably about 2 years ago now, when I was traveling, I accidentally had a cup of normal coffee instead of decaf coffee, and wow. it was crazy. Like, I was so hyper. It really hit home to me how much of an impact a cup of coffee can actually make on your mental and physical state. And I didn't realize at first what had happened. And then once I did, I was like, whoa, this is what I was like all the time before I gave up caffeine. So yeah, it is a really powerful substance. So if you ever have had that thought like, oh, well, yeah, I do suffer from a bit of anxiety, I do have that roller coaster of energy, maybe give it a go, give it up and see what happens. And if you're getting enough sleep, which I know not everybody is, but if you are getting enough sleep, it's really not necessary to function at a high level. The fourth thing that has made a huge difference in my life is mindfulness. And you might call this meditation. It can be. I don't meditate regularly. It's something I kind of think sometimes I should do, and maybe I will experiment with it again. But I have been meditating on and off for over 20 years now. I was first introduced to meditation at uni in 1999 when I did a subject called meditation in Eastern religions. And back then it just wasn't part of the culture like it is now. But I learned how to meditate in that course. Yes, my university had lots of wonderful and weird courses. So it has been a game changer for me because it's taught me that I am not what I think. So the experience of mindfulness meditation is you realize that your consciousness is separate in a way to the thoughts that come through your mind. And that is incredibly powerful because when we get caught in the thoughts in our mind, that's when we're kind of unconscious. We're not aware that those thoughts are not necessarily true. You really can't believe everything you think, okay? And if you have experienced anxiety and depression, you'll be very familiar with this, and you know that you get these thoughts that just come at you, and you seem to have no control over them, and they can often be lying to you. So going through and having the experience of long-term meditation, mindfulness, separating your consciousness, the watcher, from your thoughts, is a really powerful experience, especially if you do it regularly enough that in everyday life you start to notice this. When thoughts come up, you can actually go, hang on a second, let's take a step back. Is that true? Is it helpful? Yes, no. Okay, well, should we change what we're thinking about and change our state in some way? So that has been incredibly powerful because if you don't ever have that experience, you tend to get caught up in your thoughts. And even if you have meditated, you still do, but you have a better chance of making that separation and realizing that just because a thought has come into your mind, it doesn't mean it's something you have to listen to or believe. The fifth healthy habit that has really worked for me is tracking what I eat. Now, this has been a game changer for me, especially when I've tried to get leaner, so lose some body fat. As I said at the beginning, it's really, really easy for me to gain weight, especially if I'm eating a lot of carbs. I can thank my Germanic Dutch ancestry for that. We tend to be a large people in both dimensions in my family. So, for me, that's been really, really important for a number of reasons. First of all, I'm really absent-minded. If I'm not tracking something, I forget. And this kind of is interesting compared to the last thing that I was talking about, being mindful. It's incredibly hard to be mindful constantly about what's going on. So, you just eat something and then totally forgotten you've eaten it, and then eat something else. And before you know it, you're over your calories and you start gaining weight. So for me, tracking my calories has been a mindfulness exercise. I have to keep track of what I'm doing, and it keeps me aware and awake to what I'm actually putting in my body and the food I'm consuming. It's also taught me the nutritional value of food. Like, sometimes if you've never done this, you don't really understand how many calories or how much fat or protein or carbs are in certain foods. Like pasta, there's a reason that pasta will just put the weight on you, man. There's so many carbs and so many calories in that stuff, but it's delicious. Now, this is the thing, right? I don't restrict myself. In other words, I'll eat whatever I want. There's no foods that are off limit. There's nothing that I'm not allowed to eat. It's just a case of being mindful of tracking what I'm eating so that I can make sure to keep the balance and make sure, like I said earlier, I'm eating enough protein, and then I can fill up the rest of my calories with basically whatever I want. Of course, I try to prioritize, healthy whole foods rather than a lot of junk food, because what you eat becomes your body. So it's good to give it healthy nutrients. But tracking my food has been incredibly important to me. And You know, I wouldn't be where I am today without it. I wouldn't be at the healthy weight that I am without it. And look, it's not something I do all the time, right? I have breaks from it because it is a bit tedious at times. So, you know, I'll track for a while and then I'll have a few weeks off and then I'll come back and track again for a while. So it's just something that I've accepted is going to be part of my life for the long term. Because like I said, if I stop doing it for too long, I just fall back into bad habits and become unconscious with what I'm eating and end up overeating. So, I mean, for me, tracking is just like anything. I track my finances in my business. I track other health stats, you know, on my Fitbit. I track my personal finances. You know, there's lots of things in life that we keep track of. And for me, food is just another one of those things that I'm keeping track of to help me maintain my health at an optimal level. So those are my 5 healthy habits that have changed my life. There's more. Maybe I'll do another video. Hey, if you'd like to see another video where I talk about more of the habits that have worked for me, let me know in the comments below and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments, you know, what healthy habits have really changed your life? What have made a big impact on your happiness and your health? Because I'm always looking for new ideas and new things, and I'm sure the other watchers, readers, commenters, viewers, what do I call you guys? The other people in the crew, in the fam, in the community, whatever. The rest of you. I'm sure you are interested in this as well, or you wouldn't be watching this video, right? I'll be back again soon with another video about health, happiness, and handmade business. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.